Hey, today I have a special knife. This knife was made for me by hand, custom, Bob Ralph. This is a beautiful knife. Damascus, carbon steel. I don't know the steel, and I don't know a lot of details on it that I wish I knew now, because he's since passed away. This guy worked hard his whole life, and then he retired and died shortly after. He died during COVID, but I don't know if he died of it. I don't know a lot of the details. It's kind of a, an odd story, I guess. He's like a relative that I met on Facebook. And my dad verified, yeah, that's, that guy's your fourth cousin. He lived in Rochester, New York. I live in Indiana. And we became good friends / fourth cousins just over Facebook. It was same politics, same hobbies, we had a lot in common. And he was a little bit older than me because he was like my dad's, I guess, second cousin. However that whole tier of cousins works, when you got like a fourth or a fifth cousin, what that means to your parents. Either way, it was more about the friendship. He was just a cool dude. Really cool dude. Probably 20 years older than me. We didn't really know anything about each other, but we knew we liked the same things. We were conservative Republicans. We believed in the Second Amendment, all that kind of stuff. And we were just regular blue-collar guys. He made me a knife. This was his hobby. This was his passion, opposed to what he did his whole life as a career, I believe. This is a really cool full tang. I believe this is walnut wood. I'm a woodworker, lighting designer, so I kind of recognize that as that, but it could be otherwise. It's nice. He's got 4 brass pins in here. This whole spine is kind of, I believe you would call this a clip point. It has kind of a Persian feel. Really great pronounced sharpening choil. I believe Jared over at Neve's Knives would really appreciate that choil. That's for sure. It's got a very subtle grind and almost a convex grind. You can't, at first I thought this thing doesn't even have a grind, but it does. It's just in there so subtle, and I like that. I'm pretty impressed by that, because it shows that extra step that he took. Now I've got some rust on the blade, so that lets me know. I keep it inside I've got a thing with my grandpa's guns, and this is right next to my grandpa's guns, and he was just some fourth cousin that I had never even shook his hand. Now I did go on a motorcycle ride up north through Ohio with a buddy of mine, with intent to go to Rochester and see Bob for the first time. And when I got to Cleveland, I was like, I'm not gonna make it. I can't make it. There was something, I don't know, it was weird. I wasn't comfortable. Me and my buddy were on each other's nerves. So I just said, I'm turning around. And he went on into Maine and all that, because I wasn't going to go that far anyways. I call him Iron Ass. He rides long distances, and I'm not that guy anymore, at least. Um, so a little more about this knife, which I pretty much covered everything I know. It's like he knew what my hand wanted and needed in a fixed blade knife without even knowing. It's just, sometimes things are just meant to happen certain ways. And with his passing, before I could really meet him and maybe even go out and spend some time and watch him do his trade, he was gone. And it's sad. And I'm probably more sad about him passing than I am people I've known personally, physically known for a long period of time. So there was something special about our connection and our friendship that we had bonded and created through just laughing at each other's posts on Facebook and going back and forth and kind of even like defending each other or even making fun of each other. He's got a son, and I believe his son carries the same name, and I believe his son lives in Japan. And he and I were like oil and water. He and I have different politics. We didn't get along right out of the gate on Facebook, and it was funny, and it would make Bob laugh that me and his son weren't friends on Facebook because we disagreed on so many things. And he was younger than me, and I'm older than him and younger than Bob. So it was, it was like funny generational gap kind of thing. And then I got this message on Facebook Messenger from his son saying that his dad had passed away and that he wanted to reach out to me because he knew that Bob and I had become such good friends. So out of respect, disregarding our differences, he reached out to me, and it was very humbling and nice to maybe readjust a friendship that should have happened while Bob was alive. So I'm now friends with his son, who I've never met, and I hope to meet, because his son's going to be a wealth of information on him to help me fulfill that void in my head over a friend and a relative that I wish I had known better. So it's funny. This little video is not as much about the knife, but more about Bob Ralph, and maybe more about relationships and friendships that have gone south, and you got to do an inventory in your head over whether or not that relationship's important enough to salvage, to recultivate, to bring back, to have it all, to purge. I believe it's important to purge toxic relationships, even if they are family. I probably believe it too much because I'm such a hard ass on my family. When they piss me off, I kind of just black out on them. I can't be fake about it. I just can't. So blood and water is the same thing to me when family really lets you down. And it's easy to let me down because I carry a certain level of principles that are even too tough for me to handle sometimes. And sometimes when a family member or a good friend of mine will let me down, they sometimes don't even know they let me down. So it's probably important that I tell them more about how and why they let me down. But then it's also, I get in my hard head and I say, you should know better. You need to figure out why you let me down, and if you care. If you don't care, we just go on about our lives and we live without each other. So it's a fine line. But back to the most important thing about this video is my old friend and fourth cousin, I'm going to say, has left me something that will always stick with me. And This will be a knife that I'll have forever. And I don't have kids, so I'll be passing this down to a good friend, just like Bob passed it to me. I just got to figure out which friend would deserve such a gift. I've got a couple in mind right now, but that'll change over the years. That's more than a knife.